My name is Sid, and I'm a 28-year-old office worker. I have been on a business trip since the day before yesterday, leaving my wife Miley at home. I love my wife and miss her a lot, but I was doing my best to support Miley, who is a housewife. However, I was supposed to have a business meeting that day, but because there was some misfortune in the client's family, I got to go home a little early. To the branch manager, "I'll send you a letter of condolence, so be careful on your way home," he told. "Okay, thank you very much. I will leave it up to you," I said and left to go home. I thought, I have to give Miley a call, but when I tried to call her, she didn't pick up. Eventually, the battery seemed to run out and the phone turned off. I wondered if she was still sleeping. By the time I got home, it would be past noon. Thinking that she would be awake by then, I decided to head home. When I arrived home, Miley was cooking. "I'm home, Miley." "Oh, so you were cooking?" I called out to her, and she seemed a little surprised. "Oh, welcome home. It's already ready, so let's have lunch together," she said kindly. "Thank you." I wondered about it a little as I said, "Oh, well, you never picked up the phone before I got home, but did you prepare lunch for me too? Or did you have friends over?" I asked, but Miley chuckled. "Somehow, I had a feeling you'd be home. I wonder why." "Oh, wow, Miley, you have good instincts." "It's a labor of love." I left the kitchen after our conversation. I decided to take a little nap to recharge my batteries, partly because I didn't sleep well last night. Then I opened the bedroom door and stiffened. There was a half-naked stranger lying on the bed. I came to my senses and ran back to the kitchen. "Miley, there's a man in the bedroom!" But Miley was not there. Confused, I went back into the bedroom. Miley didn't have any brothers, so was he a cousin or a friend? Then, fearfully, I approached the man in the bed. Excuse me." The man woke up. "Oh, my God! Seriously, why is your husband home?" he muttered. While I was confused, the man hurriedly got dressed and left. It was then that I finally got over my confusion and understood the situation. Miley had brought her lover into the house while I was on a business trip. By the time it clicked, Miley and the guy were gone. I immediately went to a detective agency. I wanted to find out about my wife's affair and whereabouts. When I went to withdraw cash to pay the detective fee, I was shocked again. Just a few days ago, I had over $40,000, but now the account only had $200 left in it. Thinking it might have been Miley, I took out of my premarital savings. After a while, I received a call from a detective. When I went there, I heard that they had found Miley's whereabouts. "I didn't understand that your wife is currently at her parents' home." I was surprised to hear that. I had called my parents-in-law first, but at that time, I was told that my wife wasn't there, and the investigator looked as if he was reluctant to say anything. "Perhaps the other man might be kind of dangerous." "You mean like the Mafia or something like that?" I asked, and the investigator nodded. "I'm not sure yet, but I think it might be better to go through a lawyer." I then asked for a lawyer. With the lawyer present, I called Miley and her lover into my office for a discussion. I said, "If you love that man so much, I'll divorce you, but you don't get a share of the property. And, Toby, I'm going to charge you $40,000 in alimony." My wife was pale, and Toby was staring at me in frustration. In the end, I got what I wanted. At least, I thought, I had gotten rid of Toby. I knew I couldn't do anything in front of the lawyer. That's right, it was my wife and Toby who were at fault. But that night, I was at home watching TV. Suddenly, the intercom rang. I must have been tired. Without thinking, I opened the door to find Toby standing there. He grabbed me by the collar, pulled me out, pushed me down the outside stairs of the apartment. I rolled down the stairs, helplessly. When he came to a stop against the wall, he couldn't move because of the pain all over his body. Maybe it was the pain, maybe it was the impact, but I couldn't breathe well. Toby looked down at me coldly. He suddenly came down the stairs. This is not good. I'm going to be killed for sure. As I was desperately trying to move, Toby walked past me with a grin on his face. "You're out of luck, falling down the stairs." I was truly horrified to hear that. I thought I wasn't afraid of the Mafia, that I would never give in to them. I knew I was ignorant. This guy was serious, and he was going to make me disappear. Fortunately, someone downstairs found me and got me to the hospital right away. They asked me a bunch of questions at the hospital. I told them that I slipped and fell down, because if I had turned him into the police or anything, he'd bring in his friends, and this time, I would definitely be killed. No matter how successful my revenge was, it would be meaningless if I lost my life. I was so tense in the hospital that I kept thinking about it. Then my lawyer came to see me. I informed him that I was withdrawing my claim for compensation from Toby. He came to talk to me about it. Sid, are you sure? I'm glad you survived anyway. So, are you sure you want to withdraw your claim for alimony? I nodded empathetically at the lawyer's words. Yes, that's enough. I don't want anything to do with those guys. No matter how many lives I have, it won't be enough. I just want to live peacefully. The lawyer looked as if he wanted to say something. To me, he said, I understand. Then I'll do it your way. And left it at that. Thus, I withdrew the claim for alimony against Toby. I only made Miley a condition that I would not split the property with her. I also decided not to ask for the money that had been spent. You might say I was weak. I am sure that only those who have experienced this fear can understand it. I had just sworn that I would never give in to the Mafia, and yet those feelings were so easily overturned. Toby was a terror to me, and so was Miley, who was connected to Toby. After that, I decided to concentrate on recovering from my injuries. I was able to walk with crutches. I recovered to the point where I could leave the hospital soon. I was walking down the hallway for rehabilitation. I found a man who had fallen down the hallway. I panicked and called a nurse. The nurse helped the man to his feet. He thanked me and left. He was on the same crutches. I wonder if he was there because he was pushed down by the Mafia too. I thought to myself, what am I doing? I felt a little depressed. I was finally released from the hospital. I had to take a leave of absence from my job. I kind of felt unmotivated, so I quit. I didn't even want to go back to my own house. My lawyer went with my father to get my stuff. My ex-wife moved out soon after that and completely paid off the apartment. After that, I have been recuperating at my parents' house and going to the hospital for rehabilitation. Frankly, I wasn't even willing to do the rehab. I managed to keep going to the hospital because I didn't want to lose the use of my legs. Then one day, while in rehabilitation, I was approached by a man. He said, excuse me, I'm the person who helped you when I fell down 2 months ago. Do you remember me? Oh, that time. The man smiled good-naturedly, as I recalled it. I'm Warren. Thank you very much for your help that time. Well, it's nice to be able to say thank you again. At that point, I was getting a little tired of rehab. Warren said he was about to take a break too. We had a drink together and chatted. Warren had broken his leg in an accident while riding his motorcycle. I was lucky it was just my leg, Warren said with a laugh. I wondered if it was that bad of an accident. Warren turned to me and asked, What about you? You have the same injuries as me, right? For a moment, Toby's smile at that moment flashed through my mind and a chill ran down my spine. I smiled and replied, well, I'm embarrassed to say that I tripped on the stairs at my apartment. Warren looked a little puzzled. I see. That must have been tough, he said. From that day on, I began talking with Warren during rehabilitation. Warren is 2 years younger than me. He was a sweet guy who liked motorcycles, camping, and anime. That friendship continued after we both finished rehab. We became good friends, drinking and hanging out from time to time. One day, we were having a drink at a bar. Warren suddenly asked me, Hey, I was just wondering, did you really get hurt because you tripped on the stairs? I almost spit out my beer when he asked me that. Huh? What? I asked back. I don't know. It's really just a feeling, but I just felt like you were lying, he said. I was surprised, but thought I was no match for Warren. I couldn't help but laugh. Then, for the first time, I told someone other than my family about what had happened. Warren, you have good instincts. I was pushed down a flight of stairs. I'm divorced, and my ex-wife is having an affair with a mobster. I filed an alimony suit against the guy, and he came to my old apartment, dragged me out the front door, and left me there. In the end, I gave up on getting alimony. Warren, who had been listening to the story in silence. I see. By the Mafia. What guy? He asked. I thought for a moment what I should do, but it had nothing to do with Warren, so I thought it would be better to tell Warren so that he wouldn't be in danger in the future. A guy named Toby, blonde hair, a little scar on his right eyebrow. I don't think he'll have anything to do with Warren, but just in case, just be careful. And then, yeah, thanks, I'll be careful, Warren replied. I made a powerful speech about how scared I was of the Mafia. It was a bit pathetic, but it had to be done. It was a relief that Warren took me seriously. A few days later, I received a phone call from Warren. I picked up the phone, wondering if it was another invitation. Said, Are you free today? I need to talk to you about something, and I'd like you to come over to my place. I was told, Warren's house? Sure, but I answered. Thanks, I'll send you the address, he said, and then hung up. I went to the address sent to me and found a mansion standing there. It was surrounded by high walls and an atmospheric gate. I was overwhelmed. The gate opened and a black luxury car came out. The house and the car looked like it might have been involved with the Mafia. I thought for a moment, no way, it's not one of Toby's guys or something. Just as I was about to leave, Warren came out and called out to me. Sid, I'm sorry you had to come. Warren was wearing a suit, unlike his usual attire. Behind him stood a well-built man. I froze, and then the man opened his mouth. Hello, thank you for always helping out my son. I'm Val, Warren's father. I managed to speak. No, it's nice to meet you too. I'm Sid. I lowered my head a bit. Warren, with his usual friendly smile. Come on in, he said. I followed behind them with a sense of caution. They led me into what looked like a parlor. I sat down on the sofa. Warren, sitting across from me at a large table, opened his mouth. I felt bad telling people what you told me, but when I heard the name Toby, I couldn't leave it alone. So, it was that story. I set myself up. The father motioned to one of his men who was standing by. My son told me what happened. Toby's one of ours, actually. We've captured him, so you can do whatever you want with him until you're satisfied. Then, a limp Toby was dragged out. I hurriedly refused. No, I'm not interested in that. Thank you for your trouble, but I must decline. When I said that, the father nodded smilingly. Well, that's what most people say. Then, let me at least give you this. He took out a thick envelope. I took it as he offered it to me, and was baffled by its size and weight. Oh, this is, after all, that? I said, but Warren's father seemed unconcerned. There's $100,000 in there. It's for what he did to you, and for your medical treatment. Anyway, can you give me a break on this? And to be honest, I was afraid to accept such a large sum of money like $100,000, but I was also afraid to refuse, so I greatly accepted the offer. After the conversation was over, Warren took me out of the house. I said, "Thank you. See you," and was about to leave, but Warren looked like he wanted to say something. I stopped. "What's wrong?" I asked. Warren said, "I'm sorry I didn't tell you that I was the son of a Mafia boss. I'm not trying to follow in my dad's footsteps. I'm just a normal working guy. But when I heard your story, I just couldn't let it go," he said. I looked at him. "No, thank you," I said. "I was a little surprised, though, but you made me feel better. Let's have drinks again sometime," I replied. Warren smiled and nodded, as if he was relieved. And then, after clearing things up, I left my parents' house, started working, and got a girlfriend. I don't know why, but I heard a rumor that my ex-wife was staying at her parents' house. I don't know the reason why, though. If she's locking herself up inside the house, I guess she doesn't have time to care about me. I honestly don't have time to think about my ex-wife either. When I told Warren about it, he said, "Haha, that's a good thing. They say forgetfulness is the greatest revenge." He laughed happily. Warren is right. You can forget about the things you don't like. I'm going to forget about it and enjoy my new life.